Hey, my name's Xenu, and you're listening to Anti Moonboy News. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be breaking down the discussion that's been ongoing in the Monero Research Lab regarding the heavy technical debt that's been built up in the Monero codebase. And it's actually a pretty serious vulnerability. But the good news is, because of the stress testnet that's been spamming the network or in preparation of full chain membership proofs, a lot of just bad code has been found. So we're going to be talking about that and possible solutions for that, including a proposal from Justin Ehrenhofer, which caused some pretty divisive debate. We will also discuss the Simplex stuff going on and Zcash pumping again, and what this means, because Zcash actually ended up flipping Monero. So we got a lot to get to, and like last week, we will be doing the super chats at the end of the show. I kind of liked how that worked, so you can stick around for that if you did send a super chat. And the other thing to mention too, before we get into things, this is my last show prior to my vacation. I'll be gone the next 2 weeks, and I'll be in Spain. So I'm very excited for it, mostly because I'm pretty burnt out. You know, running a channel is hard, man. Making content and stuff. But I'm going to be reinvigorated, and I have some ideas that I've already talked about on the show, and some ideas I haven't even published yet. So lots and lots to get to. But yeah, let's start the show talking about the stuff going on with the Monero Research Lab. And so yeah, it's been a really important week over there, and the past few weeks especially. And the thing is, Monero has a pretty significant issue with not having enough developers. It's kind of just the way it is, and this is an argument for a price increase, because a higher price means more eyes on the code. We have some really, really smart developers, but they're kind of they're working overtime, right? And there's just a lot going on in Monero. You know, for example, one thing is the DNS checkpoints we were talking about with the Qubic situation. That's been kind of put on the back burner because there's a bug, and these scaling issues that we're about to talk about have kind of taken over the focus of everybody, just because this is much more important. So yeah, this is a pretty big issue. And essentially what's been going on is, in preparation for full chain membership proofs, the various developers in the Monero Research Lab have been running this testnet to spam the network. And they're doing it at very exaggerated amounts. But they're doing this for the sake of stress testing the network. And yeah, it's been found that the network is not as resilient as thought. On an economic scale, it is resilient with the dynamic blocks and stuff. But the issue actually comes down to the Monero daemon. And the daemon is the Monero node, right? And the issue here is that a lot of the code in the daemon is just kind of old, and it hasn't really been looked over in a while. And it's just, there's these little things that are being found all over the place that can be optimized. Now, the good news is that because these stress tests are happening, a lot of these optimizations are being found. Furthermore, I've been talking about cup rate on the show, or coop rate. I don't know how to freaking pronounce it. It's a kind of a dumb name, but anyway, there's this other node being written in Rust, being worked on by the developer Bug. And this Rust implementation of the Monero daemon is like far more efficient. And it's been found that the reason that there's these efficiency increases is because the code, the C++ code for the current Monero daemon is just inefficient. So anyways, the stressnet and the creation of this alternative node written in Rust has kind of opened the eyes to a lot of the people, or a lot of the researchers in Monero, that yeah, we actually have to prioritize this. And in actual fact, we need to like make some major improvements on things prior to releasing full chain membership proofs. Timeline-wise, this is actually the big factor that would delay full chain membership proofs, if anything. It seems like that and the math behind that and the actual implementation of full chain membership proofs is totally fine. But this is really what's taken the main focus from the developers because, if someone does have unlimited resources, Monero would definitely be in trouble. And not just because of the larger block size, but actually more so that the daemon itself would not be able to handle that the amount of transactions being spammed. Like different things would actually break. So essentially, we should be working on improving verification and the efficiency of the network. And what we shouldn't be doing is crippling the network like what has happened with Bitcoin to prevent these types of increases. Because that's kind of the dynamic here, right? So we've seen Bitcoin, right? And a part of what has happened with Bitcoin is they have forced themselves into, okay, we can only grow by this amount each year, right? They have their fixed block size. And because of that, it has pushed then the development for cash to these layer 2s. And we know the story with that, right? It has been very, very underwhelming. It's been a complete failure, right? I mean, there's been some increases in UX recently, but overall, it's highly centralized. It's frankly not even worth it. Most people are just using Bitcoin on the base layer because, frankly, people aren't even using Bitcoin. They're just holding it like a tax stock, right? We don't want that to happen to Monero. And I know the Moonboys out there may disagree with me on that, but no, we want to have peer-to-peer cash. It's very important to have something that you want to use as cash. Now, one thing I will say with this kind of debate on scaling is I have always been of the opinion that scaling for the purpose of global adoption is pretty highly idealistic, and I don't think it's a good idea. I think having the code to do that though is awesome. So I'm in favor of like having the potential to scale for the entire world, to have transactions on the same level as a Visa transactions per second. But I don't think it's like ideal to do that in the face of spam that could actually break everything. And that is really the more important issue though, because spam at a much lower level could break Monero right now. It would probably be the easiest way to break Monero. Because again, the network would become unusable at a certain amount of transactions. So as it stands right now, if Monero were to add full chain membership proofs ++, the network would not function properly. There would be different things that would like basically hurt the user experience because nodes would not be able to operate properly. The good news is that a lot of these things are going to be fixed. They've already been found. But the bigger issue that is beyond full chain membership proofs is the technical debt. And basically what has happened is you have like code that was written back in 2014 that Monero is still running on. It's kind of crazy, but like that's just kind of how it is. And I'm not a developer, but I'm like friends with developers, and from what I understand, they've seen worse. Okay, there's been like worse situations of like things, but it's still not good. And as a community, this is why we need more developers, right? Because we need to fix this, especially as Monero continues to grow. And as we're going to be talking about later too with the Zcash pump, it very well could lead to Monero getting a lot of attention soon. And with that increased attention, it comes more transaction usage. And it wouldn't be ideal if we're getting hit with these increased transactions and the network isn't able to function, obviously. Now, this leads me actually to some other good news. And that is a developer for Monero who has worked pretty extensively on the Monero daemon. He's actually called Perfect Daemon, although he's anonymous. He's kind of come back and he's put out a CCS proposal to clean up a lot of the code. Now, there's some internal drama here. Okay. Basically, this guy has gone into some disputes with the other developers because this is a long backstory. If you want to check it out, I would encourage you to give a listen to the latest Monerotopia, hour 4 of like 5, I think. Doug's got to freaking trim those shows down. Anyways, towards the end of the show, Avern XMR kind of gives a summary of actually a lot of what I'm talking about right now. And he talks about this guy, Perfect Daemon, and how in the past he's like written code, and then the code would kind of just sit there and not be peer reviewed, and he would get mad about it. And there was just internal fighting because this guy is actually highly intelligent, and he thought the other developers weren't as smart as him. Things like that. Well, he's come back and he's offering to help again. And it's one of those things where we need this work done. So anyways, this guy, Perfect Daemon, he put out a CCS proposal as I think anonymous. I will be signal boosting that once that comes out because we definitely need to fund that. I think he's asking for 150 XMR for 3 months, but that definitely has to be done because as it stands right now, the network is kind of held together by gum and duct tape. Okay, I don't know what else to say. I've for what it's worth, like I've talked with developers before about this, and it's just like, yeah, it's kind of how it is. Like we're some ragtag group of cypherpunks. We're making it work, but it's not ideal right now. So that's the first thing with the technical debt. This needs to be very much looked at and refined. The second thing then, so we're discussing this idea that, okay, if someone were to spam the network, very much aggressively spam the network, nodes wouldn't function properly. So we have these changes coming forward. Well, what else can we do to solve this? Well, there's the other option of having a scaling consensus change. And how Monero works is we have this very much a mindset of peer-to-peer cash, low fee, right? Dynamic blocks with tail emission. We're passionate about that, right, guys? It's something I really enjoy. It's something that separates Monero from Bitcoin entirely. And it's a philosophical difference, but it's also a very much a technical difference that I think benefits Monero greatly. You can spam Monero, as we've seen in the past, but it does cost something. And believe it or not, while the spam is cheap, it's costly to do it at very exaggerated levels due to the fee penalty. So it's not perfect what we have right now, but it definitely can be improved. And so this is also discussion that's happening. Arctic Mine is working on a proposal right now, and they're kind of just tinkering with it to help with, again, this kind of issue that's really kind of starting to come to fruition here of like, well, we need to like make sure that full chain membership proofs or Monero post full chain membership proofs aren't really susceptible to these types of spam attacks. And that brings me to a proposal that caused quite a bit of drama this week from Justin Ehrenhofer. Justin is the creator of Breaking Monero, so I have a lot of respect for him. However, he has kind of gone down this path where he's very much working for chain analysis companies. He created one back in 2023, I think, called Moonstone Research. And now he actually sold that company to another blockchain surveillance company, this one called Naxo. And he is literally working with former FBI agents. So, I mean, he's working basically directly with feds, is what I'm trying to say. Now, I'm bringing this up because a lot of people consider the scaling path that Bitcoin went down as something very influenced by government officials. Because when you get rid of that concept of peer-to-peer cash, it turns into a tech stock, right? And a tech stock is a lot easier to manipulate than something that is used as peer-to-peer cash. All right, it's a big difference. when you have a proposal like the one Justin Ehrenhofer submitted, it does raise some eyebrows. Now, I don't think the proposal is entirely nefarious, but it's an eyebrow raiser. And in fact, Arctic Mine was pretty upset about it, and he actually did call out Justin Ehrenhofer as being part of this blockchain surveillance company, because this would actually benefit a blockchain surveillance company. Now, Justin also works with Magic Grants, and Magic Grants has done a lot of great work for Monero, funding different things. So why am I telling you about Justin's job and all that? Well, it's because the proposal he puts forward is a scaling proposal very similar to how Bitcoin works, at least how he initially proposed it. And it got a lot of pushback from people in Monero for obvious reasons, just because dynamic blocks and peer-to-peer cash and that usage of it and the growth of it is really important to us, right? We like the concept of dynamic blocks. So basically what Justin's proposing is that the blockchain size should have a cap and should only grow by a certain percentage per year. And that in each block, the first 400 kilobytes of the block are essentially free. You really don't even have to pay a transaction fee. So this proposal immediately caused pushback because, one, why are we making blockchain space free there, right? Especially if it's a decent amount of the block, right? That's kind of weird. And the other issue is by capping the amount of the size for the blocks, you're essentially preventing growth, especially during the holiday season. Like if there's a lot of transactions, it's going to be hard to get into blocks, and it's going to cause a rapid increase in transaction size and transaction fees, right? It gets rid of these dynamic blocks that we've been really promoting. And so this caused a lot of pushback because, to the point of Arctic Mine, he's saying, well, this would benefit blockchain surveillance companies, because you could spam transactions in each block and immediately take over the space where each transaction is basically free. And then now the rest of the block size, it's much less, right? And so because you have a cap on the amount of block size you have available, then we would have the same problem as Bitcoin. Justin Ehrenhofer, he said that the mindset for the free space is basically this: it will always be used by someone, like with Bitcoin blocks. What's variable is the fee that's paid. It will be near zero with low demand, or high with flex space serving as a downward fee pressure if the demand is high. If there is demand, then there is no incremental risk. And Arctic Mine, at one point he asked, he said, okay, what is everyone here's relationship with the blockchain surveillance industry? I'll start with mine. And he talked about, how he was working as a defendant, or working with a defendant in a chain analysis case. And he says that with this 10% proposal, it would take 20 years to reach Bitcoin's transactions per second. He says, quote, "This is why I push to keep the block size small is nothing more than limiting peer-to-peer transactions, moving economic activity onto the ledger of banks." And to be fair, on the other side, Justin Ehrenhofer does have a point, though. We have to be careful with just letting the blockchain increase infinitely, for lack of a better term. Planning for Visa transactions right now, I disagree with that. I think we should be a little more realistic. It's a very fine line, right? We want to be able to handle these transactions, but at the same time, we have to look at the code that we have now and say we can't do that, and we literally can't do that right now. So we might be able to do it theoretically if we had enough. If we didn't have this technical debt, and if hardware space was cheaper. But if we look in the long term, it's very realistic. So this was an interesting debate. I encourage people to check out the Monero Research Lab logs from Wednesday. There's a lot of different information going around there. And then switch over to the Monero Research Lounge. Really Wednesday through Friday, there's just a lot of really cool discussion there. And it does appear that there is a consensus being reached, and this will improve what we have and keep us safer from these spam attacks. And again, the technical debt is the priority right now. This is like way more important than anything else. Like we need to make that the focus, and that's literally what's happening. It was also brought to my attention too that Qubic, and this is pretty interesting, I never thought of this, but if they wanted to, with each block that they mine, they could just input a bunch of transactions. Like they could fill the transactions up to the max amount, and they could do it for free, right? Because it's their block and they're charging the fees, but they're not going to charge themselves, right? So if they do that, they could spam the blockchain essentially for free. And if you do something like that, you could then attack the privacy of Monero as well, right? With poison outputs. But yeah, they could spam the blockchain at essentially no cost, and this could impact Monero usage like right now. So, anyways, really interesting discussion that's been ongoing there. Definitely worth a look. So now we got to talk about Simplex and the drama that they caused this week with their announcement of their voucher program. Basically, what they're doing is they are introducing a token, and the token will be used to pay for servers. They bring up some good points about this. I don't think this is a completely horrible idea, but they're saying some really bad things, and we need to cover that. So the headline here, we're developing community vouchers as a way to enable secure payments to server operators to make communities sustainable. Group or channel owners can select network operators for better reliability and censorship resistance than with traditional online publishing methods. These vouchers are blockchain utility tokens to focus purely on server capacity usage like prepaid telephone cards. Why community vouchers? To cover server costs securely and privately. With free centralized platforms, you lose security and privacy because your data is used for advertising and sold. They deplatform inconvenient users, often based on frivolous complaints. You don't own all rights to your content. Paying for server capacity is cheaper than free platforms. Our estimates based on the current costs are $5 to $10 a month for 5,000 active message receivers. Could be up to 50,000 listed community members with 5 to 10 gigabytes of files/media archive. Now, I'm going to stop there. So this is completely fine in and of itself, right? This is a company. They are for profit, right? They want to grow. So they are doing what they think is right to grow without having advertising, and that is to have a token that you buy. So this is not a problem, okay? The problem is what they said later, especially with regards to Monero, which we're going to cover in a second. To make one thing very clear, though, I'm completely fine with companies such as Simplex who care about regulations and want to comply, okay? That's fine. And, time and time again, we've seen these privacy companies toe this line where they are respectful of privacy laws and they will definitely comply because they want to continue developing and growing as a company, but they do also provide strong privacy. And so they have this like fine line that they walk down. And fine. But to be clear to people though, just because a company says that they're a privacy focused company, it doesn't really mean anything. And I know that it's silly to say because it's obvious, but it needs to really be repeated. We've seen time and time again, examples of these privacy companies say the freaking dumbest shit about crypto. You're hearing them talk about cryptocurrency, and it's they clearly do not understand what they're talking about. We had this already this year with Proton Mail. We had it with Odyssey a couple weeks ago. Now we're seeing it with Simplex. It's just man, I really need this vacation. That's what I'm trying to say. Because I'm seeing this is just what are they talking about? Because we go down here, so they say, where is it? Why not existing crypto? And they say existing cryptocurrencies do not allow the implementation of the required model for community vouchers. The price of cryptocurrencies is determined speculatively and not based on costs. The fact that they can be freely traded and transferred exposes existing cryptocurrencies and tokens to financial regulations. The existing cryptocurrencies such as Monero and Bitcoin and some others are very likely to be accepted as payment for community vouchers via bridges, but they cannot be used the foundation of the system because they are not flexible and smart contracts. Cannot directly support the model we are developing. Now, that's honestly totally fine with me. Like, if this is still a situation where, okay, you can use Monero to buy these vouchers, I think that's fine. Like, if you want to just have these vouchers, you want to make your smart contract or whatever, fine. I kind of think that's an unnecessary step, though. Why not just have a market where you sell something for Monero? Doesn't that not make more sense? It doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't just do that. It only makes sense if they're doing this to make money, right? And this is kind of what we've seen with Odyssey, and we've seen with these other projects where they have like a cryptocurrency token, and it's kind of this way for people to make money. They claim that it's not the case. We haven't seen the white paper. I don't know if the tokenomics for this would even allow for that, but it's kind of like, why would you do that? And I also don't understand what they're saying where they say the price of cryptocurrencies is determined speculatively and not based on cost. Well, yeah, it's determined speculatively like everything else, right? So when do these vouchers also have speculation as part of it? Doesn't really make much sense to me. Them wanting to have this on Ethereum is fine because they're a company, they can make their own decisions. But where we're running into issues, though, is some of the statements they later said about Monero. So this is a quote from their Twitter, and it says, "Of course we know about Monero, and we love it. But Monero fails regulatory compliance test. It's money, and money cannot be private legally. Try buying Monero on exchanges. What we're developing is a legal equivalent of prepaid telephone cards, not a general purpose currency or token." And yeah, I mean, that statement's just terrible. First off, it's assuming that Monero fails a regulatory compliance test. What test are they talking about? Because they just made that up. I don't know what they're referring to. And they are saying a lot of things that just don't make any sense. And Overn XMR calls them out. He says, money cannot be private legally. Have you ever heard of cash? Try buying XMR in exchanges. Plenty of exchanges have XMR, such as Kraken in the United States. Simplex Chat responds, yes, but cash is heavily restricted, but in how much you can store, deposit, and withdraw, it cannot be paid electronically. Monero is great, but we need a mechanism that is decoupled from any cryptocurrency that has no market/speculatively driven price and has no support for free unrestricted transactions, but rather fixed price and restricted utility usage only, while providing security and privacy. It doesn't exist, we need to build it. The good news about the zero-knowledge Ethereum EVM is that it is portable. We can launch testnet on one blockchain, production network on another, and once it matures, make servers run this blockchain independently. That all requires smart contracts, mechanisms for network-wide consensus. So we are not interested in Ethereum as currency. On the opposite, we see it as an unavoidable distraction. We are only interested in their decentralized computation model, which was, by the way, the original vision of Ethereum before it got co-opted by speculative usages, and in the fact that it bootstraps lots of problems for early stage development, servers, payments, tools, etc. Monero can't solve any of these problems, unfortunately, as it's not a computational network yet. Monero is just digital cash, man. It's not going to ever be that. So Overn XMR responds, so you're going to pay staff using valueless arcade tokens? And Simplex responds, of course not. The model we're developing is this. Channels of community owners use fiat or crypto money to buy community vouchers from a smart contract. If they used any EVM tokens, they will be locked in a smart contract and nobody will be able to use them at this point. For anything else, it requires bridges and some point of trust. So starting from EVM makes more sense. Channel owners then use these community vouchers to pay for server capacity to any operators participating in messaging network. Server owners who accepted these tokens receive the unlocked funds. Part will be paid to the server owners, a part to the network to fund governance and development. At this point, we get money to pay staff. I mean, this just sounds to me like a fucking ERC20 token. It's just such a shame because like the Monero community, right, has really supported Simplex. Over an XMR, by the way, I believe he actually manages the one of the largest Simplex groups, which is a Monero group. And yet again, same with Odyssey, right? Instead of like acknowledging your own user base and saying, hey, we support XMR, we're going to use it. Instead, they're making some token that they want to get a profit from. Because that's what this is. Like, I don't see any other reason why they would go through all this work to make their own token, make their own, ERC20 token. Like, why would you do that instead of using something that's already adopted? No, it's because they want to get rich. They want to get a profit off this. That's what's happening. With the tokenomics, of course, we're left out of this proposal. And I'm sure there's going to be burns and all this other crap. They claim that that's not the case, but because like later on, they were asked, what law says you can't accept XMR? And Simplex says, well, we can, but we cannot sell XMR to users who never heard about cryptocurrencies and don't want to touch cryptocurrencies via the apps. We can sell arcade tokens, though. We're not in cryptocurrency business, have no intention of being there. We're there for the tech and payment ecosystem. By creating a hard dependency on any particular cryptocurrency, we're limiting our options. In a way, it's the same reason we don't integrate Tor. It's one of the many existing overlay networks, and people can use it or any other or connect to Simplex service directly. Overlay networks is not our business. Same for payments, it's not our business, so we need to avoid coupling with a particular cryptocurrency. An EVM blockchain, even though they depend on ETH, don't require to use it for anything other than gas, and gas is cheap. If we rely on XMR, we have to use XMR for payments, and we can't do that. We need to put a critical aspect of network functioning outside of control of the code we developed. So while we want to make network independent from the company, we will need to make it dependent on smart contracts we develop, not on any cryptocurrency. So again, I mean, it seems like they're developing something, and they've already done a lot of work on it. And on the plus side, it does seem that they are open to like accepting Monero for these tokens. But it just seems like all this extra work here, right? Like, why not just accept Monero? Well, again, we know the answer. It's because they're trying to make a profit off this, like all these other companies have done something similar. I quote tweeted this one. Simplex said that, quote, we need programmable smart contracts, not cryptocurrency. Once XMR network supports smart contracts comparable to EVM model, it will be a viable consideration. Till then, it can only be one of payment options, but not a core network dependency, end quote. I mean, it's just like, what you're doing here is you are, saying that your user base doesn't really matter, right? Because your user base is heavily pro Monero. It's just like, instead of doing the easy option, right, which is just accepting Monero and then giving out servers, you're making your own token because you want a cash grab. That's how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but like this seems so like all this unnecessary work and unnecessary bloat, But the worst thing they said though, and this is the last thing I'm going to read. I know I'm doing a lot of reading of tweets here. There was a lot of all over the place discussion, and I think I've covered most of it. But this was the worst thing they said though. They said that people should learn to recognize following the laws as strength, not as weakness. Study law, understand what it is, use it to defend yourself, and change it for the better. Because laws are the code that governs our society, and this code must be as helpful and as unbreakable as cryptography we use. They actually said that. So anyways, I just don't get it, man. Well, I do get it. Their company, they probably are compromised. And yeah, I mean, if you're using Simplex, you need to run your own relay and kind of understand that this is just another Telegram. And I'm not surprised though. Like you can't expect a large messaging platform with large groups, and Simplex doesn't really have this yet, but they're moving in that direction. Once you start getting large groups, like it's going to start to glow. It just is what it is. And, they are complying, and that's their choice. And, but reading that, like following the laws of strength, like, oh man. Yeah, it's not a surprise they're using Ethereum. But anyways, yeah, this whole thing is ridiculous. Fucking accept Monero for tokens. Why not? There's plenty of businesses that already do this, such as Molvad, for example. There's just tons of different businesses that accept Monero. And saying no because of regulatory concern is such a cop-out. And yeah, that's all I got to say on this one. All right, next up, cryptocurrency exchange XT has announced the delisting of Monero with trading and deposits. The privacy coin set to cease on November 5, 2025. Yeah, I've never heard of this exchange before, but it's another delisting. I know Unbreakable has this like image of like all the delistings Monero has had. And yeah, it's just another one, I guess. I've never heard of this XT exchange, so I don't even know if there's any like volume on it. But it is another one. Last thing we're going to get to. Oh, yeah. So the Zcash price pump, they did indeed flip Monero. Currently, Monero is higher than Zcash right now. But yeah, Zcash had another retard pump. And I mean, the whole thing is so inorganic. And we've talked about this. Where you have all of a sudden every single person shilling Zcash. All of a sudden, all of this very not astroturfed opinions about Zcash flooding the Twitter feed. All of a sudden, everyone wants privacy. It's just like, come on, guys. I think we know what's happening here. This is very inorganic. I think they've actually 10x'd over the past like two months. And, during this time, Monero's just trucking along. It's actually, Monero's had a great week overall. And I do believe that it is highly plausible that Monero is going to have a pretty nice pump soon. And it would actually be very fitting if it happens when I'm on my vacation. That would be very fitting. Anti Moonboy takes a break and all the Moonboys come out of their holes. No, it's all good though. So we'll see what happens. I think Zcash, I'm going to say, like, I don't think it's going to go much higher. It's already like, but who knows? Who knows? If it's the chosen next big thing, who the hell knows, right? You could see Elon Musk shilling it soon. Why not? That's the mindset, by the way, you have to have in this type of situation. Like, I genuinely do not care about Zcash's price going up. I really don't. It's all noise to me. From the perspective of like, yeah, you're going to have the annoying like Zcash people say like, oh, well, have fun staying poor, or they're saying a sideline or something. It's like, yeah, okay. You want to gamble, that's literally what happened. You want a speculative gamble. How are the usage statistics working out for you guys? So, following the price pump, this guy, Jason McGee, he said that the market understands that privacy has real-world use cases beyond dark markets. And he posts a screenshot of Zcash's market cap being slightly above Monero's. And it's like, listen, man. Monero is being used far more in white markets than Zcash. And so I made a tweet and I said, can you even name me a merchant that has more Zcash usage than Monero usage? Because we have data from places like CoinCards, ShoppingBit, and NeoGPT, among others, that show the market has to decide what they prefer as peer-to-peer cash. And Zcash usage right now, it's a tech stock. Maybe its usage will increase in the future, but I haven't seen any data supporting this. And so that's the thing. Like, Zcash, obviously, it's a price pump. People are buying Zcash through the Zashi app, and they're buying it as a speculative gamble. They're not using it. People don't use Zcash, and we have a decade's worth of data showing that. All these websites that have Zcash as an option, Zcash isn't being used. And that's because the will of usage can't be just copy and pasted. You really need a grassroots community that cares about crypto anarchism and that really wants to use a cryptocurrency to have that usage. And so the response that I'm seeing to this tweet, they have a talking point that they've come up with. And the talking point is that the usage of Z transactions doesn't really matter that much because with their near intense decentralized exchange, they can just swap to whatever, right? So from their point of view, it's better to hold Zcash and you can just then spend it for USDC or spend it for whatever the merchant is accepting because you can just swap your Zcash, shielded Zcash for that. That's a fair counter argument, right? It's like, well, they have this very nice decentralized application. I haven't used it, but I've heard, some good things. We did talk last week. It has privacy concerns, but so it's not perfect. But like, it's obviously a step in the right direction. And frankly, I wish Monero had options like this. But there's some real major problems with this point of view. In addition to the problem of that grassroots enthusiasm that is just non-existent in Zcash, the other issue is instead of asking merchants to support shielded Zcash, they're instead relying on a DEX to swap into whatever that merchant supports. And in doing so, you devalue the need to use Zcash because people, they're just going to use the other cryptocurrencies already accepted by the merchant. So their entire argument is just based on number go up in, store value stuff, right? Their statement of, if I hold my Zcash, it's encrypted Bitcoin, right? But like, this is already true for other cryptocurrencies, right? If you hold a cryptocurrency, generally speaking, you're going to be pseudonymous. And if you want to swap into something else, there's many different applications over many different cryptocurrencies that will allow you to do that. So with Zcash, it's really no different other than the fact that they have this nice privacy tech, right? But like, generally speaking, most people don't care about that. The people that care about it want to go the extra mile. And that's why we're seeing with Monero that, really heavy peer-to-peer cash usage and that emphasis on usage. And yeah, with Zcash, I'm just not seeing that. So who knows? We may see an increase in Zcash usage in the near future. I kind of doubt it, though. I think it's quite likely that they're going to see a price correction. But who knows? Maybe they'll just keep pumping forever. I will say, though, if you live by the pump, you die by the pump. Okay? So if it goes the other way, don't be surprised. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the news. And we got some channel updates, and then we'll hit the super chats and then call it a day. Yeah, really nothing else going on with the channel. I know I have videos that I've been saying I'm going to make, and I'm just not keeping up to the promises. But yeah, I need a vacation. And I'm really excited, though, because I have some interesting stuff that will be coming out. So I think after some rest, I'll be able to kind of rally back and come back like with a fresh mind, and a lot of different things. But so I just want to say thank you again to everybody who's been bearing with me while these videos aren't coming out. The Rito swap video, for example, is like delayed by like 2 months. But yeah, we got some interesting stuff in the pipeline, which I'll be talking about. But yeah, I'm leaving later this week to Barcelona, and then I'll be traveling down to Malaga. I'm going to eat so much fucking food. I'm going to get it out of my system, though, because after this trip, though, I'm going to have to get into better shape because I'm going to be like presenting at Monerotopia. So I don't want to go in there looking like a fucking fat ass. You know what I mean? But anyways, super pumped for that. But because I will be going on a trip, There will be no Anti Moonboy news for 2 weeks, unless something like extraordinary happens that forces me to come back, but I doubt that. Now, if you are looking for some Anti Moonboy content to hold you over, I did update my website with links to all of the different interviews I've done, and there's like, I think it's like 12, 13 hours of content there. I have some really great talks on there. I encourage people to check those out if you haven't yet. I'm repeating a lot of the stuff I talk about on the show, but it's always nice to bounce ideas off of other people. And also I have all of Attack of the Poison Outputs. If you haven't checked that out yet, there's a ton of great information in there. The production quality is kind of shit in the earlier episodes, but part of the process is learning and getting better as time goes on.
Beep boop. I wouldn't call your production quality shit. It's more like mediocre and at times cringe. Beep boop.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that, actually. But anyways, we got Superchats to get to. xmrchat.com/Xenu. You like to participate. And yeah, we have some really big donations this week. First one from Thos. He gives 0.069 XMR. Thank you for that big donation, man. Appreciate that. He says, I'm still annoyed Monero broke $100. Bitcoin went from funny internet money to savings account in a blink. RandomX and P2P really sold me. I think he means P2 pool. I installed Monero and XMRig straight from GitHub and pointed at P2 pool. Well, who does that 1% go to, and is it spent well? Well, thank you again, Thos. I'm assuming you're talking about XMRig. Yeah, the donation goes directly to that developer. Sec1 is very active in Monero development. So, I mean, I would say keep the donation because, the reason you're mining is because of this guy, basically, at least at the quality that we have, right? So that's where the donation is going towards. So whenever I've mined using XMRig, that's what I've done. You also might want to check out Qubic. Maybe you might like that. I mean, obviously what you're doing is fine, but that's another option as well. Or you can mine P2 pool directly in the GUI. It's literally as simple as installing the GUI wallet, and you already have Monero, so you can do that as well. But yeah, of course, with XMRig, there's a lot more customization and stuff that you can do. But yeah, I mean, regarding your comment about funny internet money to savings account in a blink, yeah, it's true. I think it still does both. Same with Monero, it does do both, and it won't take much for Monero to have a price bump. Honestly, I think it's going to happen, and it makes me a little uneasy, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure if Monero is stable enough for something really large. But I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen anyways. As a comparison, I don't think we're going to have a price pump like what Zcash just went through, where it fucking went up 10x. That would make me very uncomfortable. If that happened to Monero, I would be uncomfortable. Obviously it's nice, with money coming in, enthusiasm and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I would prefer to have full chain membership proofs done before something like that were to happen. Maybe that's just me though. Let's move on. Next one from Leo. He gives 0.1 XMR. Thank you, Leo, as always. He says, hi, Xenu. What are your thoughts on I2P versus Tor? For some reason, I've always had a bad feeling about Tor. On reviews, perhaps Eigenwallet. On BTC Intel history, check out Bitcoin Hard Talk 103. Very interesting. Have fun in Spain. Gonna miss the show. Thank you very much, Leo. Always nice to hear from you. And yeah, so let's go down the list here. What are my thoughts on I2P versus Tor? I've never really, I use Tor honestly only to just check Dread every now and then. It's mostly for me just a research tool. So yeah, I guess on a technical level, I can't really like give you like a really good answer of like what I would prefer in like a hardcore OPSEC situation is like, I guess I would use Tor because I just always have used Tor. So I can't really tell you which one is better or worse, I guess. I do need to make a video on I2P with Monero. That's another video I've just been dropping the ball on, which will get made eventually. Don't worry. So yeah, I would say in general, my thoughts, I don't really have any other than like I've used Tor and I haven't really used I2P that much. So kind of a non-answer, but that's just how it is for me. And yeah, I also have a similar bad feeling on Tor, about Tor. Doing Fed Time has some videos about it. They've just been doing things that are just like detracting from what Tor should be, which is just like hardcore OPSEC. So they got rid of the JavaScript removed by default, for example. It's like, why are they doing that? You know, it's kind of stupid. So I'm assuming Bitcoin Hard Talk is a podcast. I'll write that down though. I'll definitely check that out. Maybe I'll listen to that during my plane trip. And yeah, man, thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Okay, next up, we got a comment from Daedalus. He gives 0.02 XMR. Thank you. He says, Xenu, what are your thoughts on the recent proposal for Simplex to introduce EVM tokens for monetization to compensate node runners? Seems to me it could work well in theory to incentivize more nodes, but provides a larger anonymity attack surface. So yeah, I mean, I did already talk about Simplex in depth. Yeah, I do think though it would cause incentivization. So I think you're spot on with that. Because like I don't hate the idea of them having this type of model. My frustration with them is just how they're talking about Monero. And that one, it's clear that they don't want to use Monero directly. They'd rather make a profit. That's just how I see it. And two, they're saying they're concerned about Monero because of regulation purposes. It's like, why? You know? That just seems like this very vague cop-out when like we have like all of these like merchants who accept Monero and it's totally fine, you know? And like all of these laws that back Monero and stuff. It just seems like they don't want to deal with any more pressure than they need to. And so they're working with like some lawyers to like have something that will be fine for them from the jump or something. I don't know. And yeah, I mean, if you have more people running their own, relays, it would make the network much healthier. So if this is a way to stimulate that, I think that's a good idea. I just think the way they're going about it is just it's just dumb, basically. All right, next up, we got a donation from Bitcoiny. He gives 0.01 XMR. Thank you. He says, what are your thoughts on the Darkfi project by Amir Taki and Tari project? All right, well, my thoughts on Darkfi. Yeah, I have a video actually about how to download and install Dark IRC, which is pretty much their only working application at the moment. So if you want to get on Dark IRC, check that out. And I go into a lot more detail on my thoughts on Darkfi in that. So yeah, I think there's some legitimately cool things about this project. I don't know Amir Taki. I've never met him. I probably will meet him at Monerotopia. He seems like a cool guy. And I really like how they are taking this project seriously and they're looking at it from the perspective of like, this project is going to be attacked. We need to make this, underground basically. So they're doing a lot of things that I think are good. Some of their developers I think are really good. I like how they're building it from the ground up, privacy by default kind of situation. So they're doing a lot of really cool things. Dark IRC was pretty buggy and it was getting spammed a lot. So it wasn't really that great of a service, to be honest. I haven't used it in a while actually, but for the project itself, some cool ideas. The one concern I have though is the tokenomics. They aren't, or at least as far as I know, they haven't revealed the tokenomics for this project yet. And I think that's going to make or break the project. If they come out totally grassroots, no distribution beforehand, random X mining. That's a very interesting project to me. What concerns me is if they have a major pre-mine or something like that, which I think that would really harm the project. So I hope they reconsider that because, I think that wouldn't be a good idea. Regarding Tari, I don't really have many opinions on it. I don't know. It's just another project that seems like the UX is pretty good from what I hear. I don't really have any comments on it, unfortunately, other than that it's a project by Fluffy Pony and no one really uses it yet, but they're building things. So maybe it'll be cool. I like how they're merge mining with random X. That's pretty cool. Thanks again, Bitcoiny. And lastly, we got a big one here. This is from Rational Moonman. He gives 0.5 XMR. That's right, 5 air horns, one for each 10th of Monero. Maybe that's how I should handle the air horns, where like I should have like 1 air horn per per 10th. Man, thank you so much, man. That's a lot of Monero. I very, very much appreciate it. And he says, good call on the Blawan shout out. And this is in Spanish. It says, Pásalo genial en Barcelona y ojo con los Carteristas. And that means enjoy Barcelona and watch out for pickpockets. So again, Moonman, thank you so much. Regarding the comment, I'm going to enjoy Barcelona. I'm aware of the pickpockets over there. I mean, I'm pretty experienced, traveling and stuff. So, like I never keep my wallet in my back pocket, for example. And I'm always kind of cautious when I'm in a crowd, Always got to kind of just be on your toes. Regarding Blawan, man, that's going to be insane. That's going to be fucking sick. And you know what actually happened? The festival I'm going to, they released their schedule. Saturday night, the lineup is literally 1-0-Tricks Point Never for an hour, then Flying Lotus for an hour, and then Blawan for an hour. Back to back to back. I mean, that's like pretty much worth the price of admission for the festival as far as I'm concerned. Like that's pretty damn strong. I mean, I'm super pumped up. I'm trying not to think about it too much because like I'm already like kind of antsy. And I have like a lot of stuff I have to do prior to the trip, all the like the last second fucking planning. I'm like a last second packer as well. So I got like a bunch of errands I got to run tomorrow and stuff. And you know how it is. All right, guys. Well, I'm signing off now. Thank you guys for all the support. xmrchat.com/Xenu if you'd like to donate. And I got merch. I won't be able to send the merch while I'm on vacation, but take a look. anti-moonboy.com/merch. I got 2 t-shirts. They're pretty great designs. So anyways, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good one.